We're having the conversation this morning really around this entire CBE system and what it would portend for the country going forward. We're going to have an opportunity to talk with you about that in a general way in a bit. But joining us to have this conversation this morning is Dr. Julius Odundo, who is the Dean of Education at Riara University. Good morning, Dr.
Morning, how are you?
Very well. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
You're well?
Good to see you today.
Good to see you too.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Also joined by Claudia Lagat, who is Assistant Program Officer, Policy Engagement at the Usawa Agenda. Good morning, Claudia.
Good morning, Do.
How are you?
Great. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Glad to be here.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
For us to talk about this thing that weighs heavily on the hearts of many people. But we are not going to lament because we're saying that what we need to do is find solutions and be part of a conversation towards better.
Sure.
Before we do that, Dennis is going to share today's proverb. We'd love to get your interpretation of it.
So today we are in Algeria, Africa's largest country by landmass, also 10th globally. It is a country that is rich in oil. They export the same. And because the country is majorly a desert, Sahara desert, you find that petrol is actually cheaper than water because they invest much more to give people water, so it's expensive, And you talk about the Berber people and the history, especially with the French, and how they continue to push the country forward. Interesting people to be around, and their country's best animal is actually the large-eared fennec fox. It's a fox. It's beautiful. If you look at it, you'd want to domesticate it, but remember, it is a wild animal. But let's go to the proverb. Never rely on what you don't own. Never rely on what you don't own. Ladies first, how would you interpret that? What do you think the Berbers of Algeria are telling us?
Never rely on what you own.
You don't own.
You don't own. Yeah, because I believe in everything, for you to be able to benefit from it, you have to own it. So it's a matter of perspective, right? So that now we're talking about ownership. For you to be able to bring change in any space and to benefit the people that you're working with, or to be able to bring transformation in the place that you're in whichever sphere you're in, there has to be an element of ownership and the consequences of that. If you own something, what happens? If you don't, what happens? Because both ways, there can be positive or negative consequences. Yeah, thank you.
Tari, how would you interpret it?
I can see you putting on a sweater that looks nice. Just imagine that it was cold in the morning and you don't have one. You have always borrowed from a neighbor. And so it becomes too cold and the neighbor comes and tells you, look here, gentlemen, today I need my sweater. But you have always relied on it and you don't own it. What that proverb simply means is that make good use of the resources available to cause change.
That's interesting that last line is what you've used, because the resources are available to cause change. Yeah. I've always been of the opinion, and thank you for that, because it's great to hear both your interpretations. I've been of the opinion that being able to sort out the education system in Kenya or in any other country that struggles with development issues is not a resource issue. It's not a lack of resource issue. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Start with you, Dr.
Yeah, it is not a lack of resource issue, because in the first place, when we look at education in this country, as a country, we have a lot of resources. We start with human resource. We start with even capitation that can be able to improve the education sector. You can look at the aspect of how much money is taken to other projects as opposed to education. And to me, if you ask me, the best platform is to begin to think about how best you can sort out education of a country to be able to sort out the rest of the problems. You want the best doctors, sort that through education. You want to get the best healthcare, sort out through education. You want to get the best agriculturalists, sort out an education program. You want to get the best business people, sort out an education program. Yes, so meaning that education in this country would equalize and give us to the state of what we exactly want. Let me mention this. Our president has lately been mentioning much about Singapore. That's a good mention. But why not sort out an education program so that we get ourselves even beyond Singapore? So the resources we have are much enough and beyond. We don't even need much, but we lack priorities. We really do not know exactly what we want to do as a country. And then when you look at the education sector, I think there are so many fragments in terms of even where money is going to, that if this money is put in one basket, why wouldn't we be able to have enough resources to manage education from the lowest level to the highest level? Currently, education partially is devolved. Early childhood is
at
the county level. Some counties are doing much better than the other counties. Yeah. And so what is the big problem here? Because possibly the counties are doing much better is because they have understood what they need to sort out in terms of teachers, in terms of what the early childhood really requires. But other counties still possibly think that education is still at national level at that level.
Is it because there is a lack of, is there a lack of understanding about what needs to be done, Claudia? Because yesterday, I mean, Dennis and I were talking about this earlier. Yesterday, it became very apparent that with as little as 500 shillings, children can actually go to school, and that there's still something left over to incentivize teachers, head teachers, entire school fraternities and institutions to do better. It seems as though we can actually do education at a lower cost than what is actually being done now, and that's just a cost issue. What do you think about that before we go deeper?
Thank you, Ndo, for the question, and I want to contribute to what Dr. Riara has already mentioned. It's true, in this country we have the highest allocation. Education has the highest allocation in terms of budget, right? Then the question I've always said, and I've said this before, is about utilization. Where are our priorities? Even when you look at the entire ecosystem of CBE, from the early years to senior school, there's an issue of just prioritizing, sitting down and planning. There's an issue of planning. What is the cost of being able to take children from early years until senior school? Then we're able to say that you allocate amounts for each and every category. If it's curriculum review, this is how much it will cost. If it's infrastructure, this is how much it will cost. If it is, for example, teacher retooling or teacher employment, this is how it will cost. For me, it's just people not sitting down to actually plan accordingly for the future of these children. Because if it is well planned and you have the willpower, because I feel at times it's just the willingness to bring change. Because the bosses at the county, they have a role. The people at the national government, they have a role. It's just an issue of having the willpower and having the future of our children at heart. If you really want to transform a generation and the nation, as you're looking at the transformation that we're looking at in the vision, according to the Vision 2030 of industrialization, of having a skilled labor, are we actually working to ensure that we are putting the right inputs to be able to get what we want? So it's just an issue of proper utilization, proper planning, political goodwill, and let there be ownership at every stage. Own, like if there's a mistake that needs to be rectified. For example, if you're building a house and you realize there are things that didn't happen right, do you continue building, or do you have to relook at it and see where to fix? If you have a problem in your car, for example, do you continue driving, or do you go to the garage to fix it? So that's where we are at.
I mean, Dr. Let's look at education in the country, and I will just go way back. You know, you will guide us in terms of what education has always meant for the Republic of Kenya. Even the colonials themselves took education seriously. The likes of Tomboy and how they were educated, being taken out of the continent to study, education was really important. Post-independence, education again is mentioned as one of the key things that Kenya has to achieve. You know, the Jomo Kenyatta, the three things that we needed to be addressed: education, ignorance, disease. Education is there. If education is that important for the Republic of Kenya, why are we not getting it right? At what point did we have semblance of some sanity in terms of handling education? And when did we lost it altogether that today we look at the education sector and one would say it appears as if it is not a priority today?
Right. You know that one, if you have an educated country, you have people who can reason with you. Education in this country has been politicized. Where the Jomo Kenyatta wanted to face out ignorance is falling down because the politicians know that if ignorance is faced out completely, then they may not get the space they normally get. Because for me, someone like me, and let me give you an example, I don't think that there can be a rally in Muthaiga. He won't get clients. There can be no rally in Tigona. I'll give you an example. There is a place called Kabuku. Kambuku, if you brought there a political rally in the day, you won't see anybody because guys are very busy in the farm. And so what is happening at the moment is that politicians have decided to take over, to argue to man that when I give you tokenism, what we call politics of tokenism, and that has brought down education in a big way, to the extent that even appointments are done politically. Starting with the higher education, VCs of public institutions are appointed politically. Heads of certain schools are appointed politically. And ministries. You find in the ministry, for example, of education, some people who are highly learned and highly qualified, they are serving under someone who is strictly underqualified, because the person who is appointed politically. And so to say that education in this country as a sector is not been given the right priority. Look at teachers. How do you tell me that you have employed such and such a number of teachers, but many of them are interns earning 17,000? 17,000, I have no idea if one can give me a budget of 17,000 for a whole month for a degree, a teacher who has a degree and expecting to perform, expecting to love the job, expecting to live a decent life. So first of all, we have gone to hit so hard on the educator. The educator is frustrated. When an educator is frustrated, basically know that the expected outcome will not be realized.
What is frustrating this educator? Perhaps we can look at the root cause. What are the things that are frustrating this educator? Because essentially we're saying this thing which was meant to equalize, this system, education, which was meant to equalize, so it didn't matter what social class you came from, that you would get an education and essentially it put everybody at par, that you could then go on to do something else, whether it was that you would have a job or you would start a business or you would be part of another organization for something, but that everybody was on the same place. But now we are saying that the person who was delivering this ability to then hone a skill is frustrated, and that might be one of the problems. What's frustrating the educator?
One, when you look at, we look at basic education, and you start with early childhood. How much salary is an early childhood teacher paid? I
think the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, capped at some point at 7,500.
Yes.
And then it went to about 9,750, if I'm not wrong.
So that's the conversation. We start from there. And how much do we pay a house help for that teacher who has gone to work? That's a big question. We go to primary. A teacher stays in one position without promotion for 9 years, 10 years, 15 years. Without moving from one level to the next. So there are no promotions in between. Resources are a problem, even at basic level. Today we are talking about grade 10, for example. Are there textbooks?
No.
So how do these teachers then get motivated even to walk into class and facilitate learning? Where I stand as a scholar, a textbook is a serious resource. I know there are some people who argue and say, no, we can go online. But even why don't we put the same materials online? But a textbook is a serious resource of study. Infrastructure in some of these schools. Schools were not to be categorized in CBE. Now we have the language of C1, C2, C3, C4. And that has caused another mess. So the teacher in the C4 school will still be disadvantaged. That's the way we had the local schools against the national schools. The resources will be a problem. You go the same way from basic education to higher education. I'll give you an example. If you are teaching a common unit at one of the public universities, let's KU, let me say KU, you basically have 700 students. And that means you have 700 scripts of your unit to mark. And then you check the remuneration of this lecturer. Do you think there will be a motivation even to mark? And do you think this script, because this script 700 scripts to mark, and that's just one unit. So the level at which we have concentrated on motivation of educators is so bad, such that many of them are even leaving for other jobs. Leave alone that. walk in any classroom from basic to highest and ask learners, who among you would like to become teachers? None. Because they see that educators live in a desperate state. And as I said earlier, the issues of politicians not taking education as a priority, and the country also not sorting education first before you sort anything else. Because for me, we can sort anything else once we sort out education.
So Claudia, let's look at the education. So we had the O levels, right? Then it came to 844. Now we have CBE. At every given point, if you just look at that history, it has been an attempt to fix the education sector. Whichever way you want to look at it, it is an attempt to fix the education sector. Right now we have the CBE. It has been said it is a good system because we're now looking at competencies. But with it coming in and moving away from 844, there has to be intentional investments into this new curriculum. We talk about retooling of teachers. What exactly does it mean when you mean retooling of teachers? Have we prepared these teachers enough to understand what this new curriculum is all about, what this CBE is all about? Or are we just doing it to check the boxes to say we have prepared the teachers to teach, but we're not doing anything to look at what is the quality of training that we're giving the teachers so that they're ready for the students? Or is it just a question of tubadilisha because 844 was difficult and we move?
Thank you for that. The competence-based education is a good idea. It's a good system if you compare with 844 because of the benefits that come with it. One of the benefits is, holistic development of a child. There's an aspect of skills development. There's an aspect of acquisition of values. As I had mentioned earlier on, you're looking at Vision 2030, where we will need the labor market. We need skilled people. We need, people who can be able to handle different jobs, markets. So it's a good system because with 844, there was more of memorization. There was more of mastery of content, not necessary application of it. But with CBE, there's an opportunity for you to learn what you're learning. That means acquiring the knowledge and be able to apply that in different things. They're given projects, they're given activities to do in class. They're able to build 21st century skills like communication, for example. They're able to work in groups. You're able to assess collaboration. Their digital skills, being also explored, which is critical for this particular century. For you to be able to thrive in any industry right now, digital skills are critical. So for me, the system is great. So when you look at CBE, there are different components. Initially, there was competence-based curriculum, and that was narrow, right? So it was broadened to ensure that we have competence-based curriculum, competence-based teachers, competence-based infrastructure, and competence-based assessment. You understand all that? But as you even look at the breakdown of CBE, where is the key stakeholder here? Are you guys thinking of a stakeholder that is missing in being empowered to be competence-based? Where is the parent? You understand? Because the focus is on infrastructure, the focus is on assessment, the focus on the curriculum, and the teacher. So where is the parent? So there's a gap there already. So for me, what I would say is, in this particular system, it can be fixed, but the priorities have to be set right. And as you're talking about the educator, there are different ways to look at it. The biggest problem, apart from inadequacy, because there's skewed employment of teachers, there are some regions that have higher, teachers and numbers of teachers, and some lower numbers of teachers, which affect the quality of teaching. Because CBE demands a lot from the educator, the teacher. The teacher in CBE is not seen as a teacher, a lecturer, just delivering information, but as a facilitator. Facilitating learning, where their role is, of course, to teach and then to be able to monitor, are the children achieving the milestones they are supposed to achieve? Are they grasping the competencies? And at the end of the day, there's a very critical issue in CBC called feedback. They are supposed to actually give feedback to both the student and the parent, and whatever they are doing should actually inform instruction. For example, if you're teaching a particular component and you find children are not understanding, what are you supposed to do? Go back and evaluate the methodology of teaching.
Claudia, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen in public schools. It doesn't happen in private schools.
And that's why now I'm highlighting the problems, because if you're tasking the educator to do all this and they're not equipped to be able to do this, one, they're dealing with large classroom numbers. In the Kenya, on average, according to our data as Usawa agenda, you find the ratios of 1 to 57 or 1 to 147 or 1 to 51, depending on either it's urban or rural. When you look at Northeastern, for example, you're looking at ratios of 1 to 88 or 1 to 90 something. So what does that mean? You are one teacher. Ndo, you're one teacher. Aseto, you're one teacher. Imagine yourself having a class of 90 children and you're supposed to facilitate.
Everyone came with a vote.
Yeah, and they have their own challenges and you're supposed to monitor and give feedback. Is that possible? It's a very tricky situation. So what needs to be done is prioritize retooling of teachers, which you're saying. But the components of retooling should be on pedagogy, which is how to teach. Right? How to teach. And equipping the teachers with the necessary skills, like digital skills. In our schools, how many of our public schools have computer labs?
Very few.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like in our data for 2023, you find like 3 in 10 public schools have computer labs.
So
where
if you're
are the
talking-
devices for
so
the
you're
teachers?
talking about 3 in 10. That's 30%.
Yeah.
So essentially, you're going to be putting out your output is 30%.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
understand?
Yeah.
So for me, if you ask me, when you're talking about retooling of teachers, there are 2 ways of doing it. There's the pre-service, right? The teachers who are now in institutions where Mwalimu is, the universities and the teacher training colleges. Can we align that to CBE and ensure they have the knowledge and the expertise to do? Because what you put in is what you get.
Okay.
And secondly, let me talk about in-service, where now what the TSC is actually doing that, training a number of teachers. There's robust training on retooling. But that's not enough. Remember, this is a teacher who's coming from 844, where you're used to memorization and doing all those things. Now it's competency-based. It takes time. How are these teachers supported in class? Are there classroom observations where someone sits at the back and the teacher is evaluated and told, there's a problem here?
No.
Is there peer learning amongst the teachers to be able to improve? Because at the end of the day, if you're able to actually prioritize, if there's an issue of prioritization of what needs to be fixed, let's work with the teacher.
Can we look at the end? Because that's what planning does. That you look at, this is where I want to go. And in order for me to get there, these are the things that I should do in the beginning. And again, like you say, so when you look at the end, you say that education is now one of those that you then need to employ to be able to get where you're going. Because examples and lived experience work so great that you can say, okay, somebody applied this and it works. Let's look at some of these organizations. Let's look at some of these countries. China is one of them. That actually was able to do this and do this well. Japan is another one. We look at the Scandinavian countries and they said, you know what, this is a society where we know that as a developed nation, we want to then be able to do this. We want people who are skilled in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That informs what happens at the school level, at the very basic level. When children are starting 2, 3, they're playing with mud, they're playing with toys and colors and numbers and all of that. So it is inputted into the education system because they say that is where we want to go. Do we see that? Because we seem to kind of be fumbling in the dark with a lot of things right now. We know that there needs to be retooling of teachers. We know that students, okay, there's a competency-based education. We know that maybe we should have some kind of infrastructure, classrooms, labs, and all of that. Do we see ourselves in a kind of progression, Dr. Odundo? Should we not? It seems like the edges need to be cleaned up so much more than they are at the moment, because we seem to be going down the hill and we're saying, Bora Tufik. That's what it kind of feels like at the moment, but it needs streamlining.
11 years down the line after we started CBE, we are still apparently discussing almost the same things. And it is because we have not been keen on the larger outcome that was expected, the bigger goal that why CBE came in place. By the way, even if the previous structure remained, because 844 didn't have a curriculum anyway, it only had a syllabus
System.
so I didn't know how to describe it. But if we were to make an improvement within 844, the larger aspect is understanding where we needed to go with education as a country and where this education needed to deliver. While we talk about retooling of teachers on pedagogy and all that, that's a good thing. But here we are looking at getting to a stage of an industrialized kind of state, but we are producing educators who have less skills in these areas. So the aspect of us not understanding that our ultimate goal in this number of years should be this. So 11 years down the line, we are still saying teachers are not well trained. 11 years down the line, we are still saying we still have 20% or less. In fact, that is very high of schools with laboratories. For junior school, actually, it's at 0.01% or even less. So these students walk from here to this, from junior school to senior school, and that's when they begin to experience much of lab. It's only private schools that have some of these facilities.
Yeah.
And let me shock you, even as we discuss this, you and I, all government officials, do not even trust the education that we are implementing.
Their children are not in those schools. Yeah.
Some are in international schools.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you are here, you are seated in an office saying, I am the person in charge of competency-based education, but you don't trust it. Teachers today, they struggle so hard and take their children to private schools because they don't even trust what they are doing in their system. So in conclusion, what do I have to say about here? The ultimate goal of CBE has already been lost. We just have to go back to the drawing board and rethink. We are talking about students going to senior school. Do you have an idea what is required to create a timetable for a group of students doing STEM? Others are doing social sciences, others are doing art and sports, but they have common subjects, mathematics, English, Kiswahili.
In a school, whereby the
Yes.
older system is also still being taught. How
Have
would
we
that
ever thought about
relationship
that?
be sorted
You see
out?
that kind of thing. That's why we need to rethink and say, I think we have moved, but we have to go back to the drawing board and engage the right people for this discussion, because people get to sit in task forces to make a per diem, but not to cause a difference.
Who are the right people?
Yeah.
You see, this is the thing, that can we go to a place where we're saying, okay, because you've brought up something very interesting. Sorry, Dennis, I know you want to. We've got an Institute of Curriculum Development. We've got a Ministry of Education, which oversees the system of education from primary school through, because counties is going to then deal with ECDs, but they're still fed into this system all the way to the university level. And again, we seem to be fumbling in the dark here. And we say, okay, look, so long as at the end of the day, there's an exam that's been sat and we can, release results. And we say we've got there eventually. We've come out kicking and screaming, but we've crossed the finish line. Who are these people that we now need to go back to and say, okay, guys, let's stop everything and let's see how we can get to it? Because it seems a bit difficult for me to comprehend that we are delivering a system. We've sent these kids on the 12th of January, 2 days ago, to grade 10. The money, 5.6 billion shillings, that was supposedly released from Ministry of Education for books was only released a week before. So they're in school right now, as we speak. They're in class without books. Okay?
Yes.
We said we're hiring 100,000 teachers. 76,000
interns, please.
No. We said we're hiring 100,000 teachers. However, 76,000 interns have been hired who are looking for P&P terms and who've said to us, you know what, by next week, you don't sort out this issue, we're sitting at home. These are the same people who've been hired.
Yeah.
We also have junior school teachers, by the way, who are still delivering this CBE, who've said, you know what, you've told us to go and stay in primary schools where we don't have the tools that we need to deliver a junior secondary school education.
I want autonomy.
But we want autonomy. Let's now tell you how we'll handle this thing. So who is the person, Claudia, and both of you, who is going to come and reroute all of this? It seems to me as though the CS is overwhelmed. And what he's going to do is that he's going to come and stand on a warm Monday in January and release KCSE results. That's what he's going to do. Because that's all he can handle at this moment. The rest of this jungle is crazy.
We have one of the challenges we have is the aspect of having commissions and semi-autonomous agencies. NEC is a semi-autonomous agency. KICD is a semi-autonomous agency. Then there is a commission which is enacted by law by Act of Parliament, like TSC, Commission for University Education. So in essence, we are saying that a semi-autonomous agency can only make a suggestion. Now, The mistake we are doing, I don't think you can really sort out a mess sometimes you have created. We have organizations like the Usawa Agenda and many other organizations that do a lot of research. Because if I asked you that when did some of these semi-autonomous agencies carry out the last research, real research that can say this is what we have carried out and this is what we have, possibly they are not even funded for that to happen. Then you find that organizations like Usawa Agenda and others that can do comprehensive research and give out, they are not given a position to sit with particularly parliamentary select committee. Like I may ask, I do not know, and I need to know from the time CBE started, what has the parliamentary select committee in this country delivered? What can they sit down and tell us that from the time CBE started, these are the deliverables we have done? NEC could be releasing money, could be releasing books late because it is funded late.
I mean, of course,
it is also underfunded. KICD. NEC, I want to applaud NEC for having set up an online course for competency-based assessment that teachers can study at their own pace. But the quick question is this: how are these teachers, first of all, helped in terms of motivation? You are not going to pay me 17,000 to spend data on doing a course as an intern teacher. And these are young teachers.
No, you know how they're motivated. We, the parents, are motivating teachers.
Yes.
We are motivating teachers. There are caucus groups who come. This is the truth, and we can say it here. That there are caucus groups that are formed, and they say, you know what, these teachers are trying, and in order for them to continue doing what they're doing, let's put together a little bit of a kitty, right? And so let's give them something. That's what we do.
Or
the
have
motivation,
development
the
money.
motivation is monetary. The motivation is saying, okay, just to keep you going a little bit more, Claudia, we're going to give you an extra 5,000 shillings that has been brought together by parents in the particular class. That is what is happening.
It's very unfortunate. And just to follow up with the question that you asked, Ndo, for me, for this, where we are in the education system now requires an urgent change or a radical change, immediate. And the person for me I'm looking at is the president. He has the responsibility to steer this country in the right direction. He's aware of all the challenges in the education system. So if he's able to give a directive and set out structures to be able to reform CBE, it is doable. There are countries which have been able to achieve so much because of political goodwill. I would still say political goodwill. And that begins with the head of state, who has to fix the education system because this is part of his agenda.
And in fact, before you even respond to the head of state, and I hope someone is listening to tell him this, the head of state needs to settle down and just say, look, I want to fix one thing at a time. I will tell you for free, if you ask me for tax today to improve education in this country, I will vote for it. The idea of getting into tax that deal with other things that are not shaping education. I don't need an affordable house if I'm well educated. Dr. Odundo is well educated. I cannot take a loan of 500,000. I will earn that from my salary and sort out a small piece of land. But if everybody was at the level of Claudia, yourself, and what, we do not need the shenanigan of tokenism. You just need to make me get well educated and sort myself out. That is the thing. And so the president needs to really sit down, and he needs to stop listening to wrong advisors in matters education. He has to stop that, because I feel he listens too much to people who do not tell him the reality of things. On my phone here, I have something that a teacher posted to me that I don't know whether it is French or which language, because the teacher asked the students in grade 7 to write about what they learned in grade 6 in science and technology. And I'll give you this. What is written here is, you can't read it. The issue of competency in terms of literacy is not there, but this child is moving to the next level. I know you have said that you are compensating. Parents are trying to boost teachers, but it's not happening in all the schools. And of course, that is trying to be done. Why is it not happening in all the schools? Because there are some regions where people are living below the poverty level. They are living below $1. So how would they motivate? So for me, the president needs to sit down, and he has to listen to the reality of things. The education is in a mess.
Yeah, Claudia and Dr. And you see what you've just indicated. For me personally, I look at that as the best feedback that the education system needs. The best feedback mechanism that CBE needs for it to be fixed, right? Because that is an assessment, whichever you want to look at it. And all you need to look at is what is this student saying at grade 7 after the grade 6 assessment. And if they are not competent enough for them to even construct a sentence, then we need to go back to the drawing board and look at what we are teaching and if these students are grasping what it is we're doing. Are we as teachers the problem? Is the student the problem? Are they grasping? And if we find the problem, then we're able to sort that out. Unfortunately, no one cares about it. I'm sorry to say. Because at the end of the day, people have KPIs. I want to the next level and people to go, whatever happens, up on Bele, I delivered what? CBE. We talk about the president being there and giving out solutions. The Presidential Working Party is equally in charge for the mess that we see today. It is the president who set up that committee, that group of individuals who came up with these recommendations today. How then do we go back to the president to tell him, hey, mister, there is a problem, you need to fix it? Yet the Presidential Working Party is part of the problem.
Aseto, let me tell you the truth. We are not giving feedback based on hearsay. On the Usawa agenda, we believe in data and evidence.
Yes.
And whatever Dr. has already shared is data and evidence. We're showing that these children are not actually competent. And we collect robust data on foundational literacy and numeracy. And the latest data we have was in 2023, where it says 33.8% of grade 4 boys and 38.2% of grade 4 girls met expectations in terms of reading and doing some calculations in math.
Again, 30% output.
Exactly. Because that tells me, and this is a grade 4, who is supposed to have acquired the necessary competencies. So that means the foundation is bad. And the foundation here, we are looking at the early years all the way. Because if you want to bring about a systems change, you're looking at the entire ecosystem. You cannot just, of course, where priorities are. But when you fix, for example, now junior school, this is in grade 7, they cannot read. They cannot work with numbers. Where are you taking them to? Where is the output? You're looking at skill set. How will you're building on something. So you're already building on a faulty foundation. How will that building go? Because we've always said, if you're looking at fixing education, look at begin with the foundation, invest in early childhood, teachers, infrastructure, then continue with the entire system. By the end of every cycle, these learners do CAPSEA, for example, at grade 6.
Yeah.
And then you're supposed to evaluate what they've been able to get or learn, apply. And then as they move to grade 9, there's another assessment again.
Yeah.
A summative assessment where now it determines which pathways they are taking. Already, why we are big on talking about foundation is even for junior school, which is critical for senior school, because junior school is an exploratory stage. They are exposed to a number of learning areas, and then these learners now are supposed to decide: is it with the help of the teachers and the parents? Is it that I would go to STEM? Is it arts and sports? Is it social sciences? But look at how junior school was crafted or was executed in this country. By last year, first term of 2025, 35% of the junior schools did not have a single STEM teacher. 35% of schools did not have a single STEM teacher. They are supposed to start.
That means 35% of students.
They are supposed They are supposed to be exploring these learning areas in STEM from grade 7, 8, and 9. For you now to decide, I am going to STEM. So what is the implication of this? There are children who did not get a good foundation in STEM, and now they've applied for STEM and they've been picked. So how are they going to now continue with STEM? The other aspect is there were no infrastructure sufficient to support them. It was more theoretical. So you learn theory. We are looking at skill at the end of the day. But now you're exposed to theory, right? Then at the end of the day, the person who is supposed to actually help you in guiding you in terms of career is the same teacher we are looking at, who has a lot of work. who is supposed to actually be assessing you at every level, because as opposed to 844, there was an assessment at grade 8. But now it's continuous, where the teacher is expected to set classroom assessments, the portfolios, the projects, just to monitor and assess where are your strengths, where are your interests, where are career aspirations. By the time they're in grade 9, now they're sure where they want to be. Did that happen?
It didn't happen.
Because you will find that their children actually would have taken the STEM pathway, but did not, because they were not exposed to it. And what does that mean, honestly speaking? Because what does that mean to the career and the future of this child? Secondly, let's look at the KCSE results that came out. Now we've categorized schools to C1 to C4, right? C1 being national schools and C4 being the sub-county schools. We have interacted with the data. Where did the most A's come from? National schools. What are the characteristics of national schools? They have most experienced principals. They have
the best teachers,
facilities. Yes. They have the high proportion of teachers there are from TSE, permanent and pensionable. In contrast, look at the sub-county schools, right? The teachers, most of them are BOM, right? Look at the infrastructure. Do they have the facilities? Yet, we are telling our children, go and do STEM pathway in a school in Baringo.
That you're all equal before God.
Exactly. And they're not exposed to the same facilities, the same infrastructure. Yet we are saying education is supposed to be an equalizer. What are we doing to the future of these children? And that is why, from the beginning, even during the dialogues that we had, and we were part of the conversations before the implementation of CBC, we were like, evaluate the schools. If there are schools that do not have capacity to offer STEM, let's have one single pathway schools. Because social sciences is humanities business. Most of the schools are able to do that. Have a single pathway school and send kids there where they will get quality education.
Well, if we look at this, where we call for the decategorization of schools was to get rid of this issue whereby you said, okay, well, let's not have everybody flock to the national schools and let's not even have this kind of conversation where we had before. But something needs to be done about this, because what this means is that C4 schools are the most accessible schools, or rather the most accessible option for many students, because they are day schools and they're most common in the placement system. There'll be the most of them, right? Because of their numbers and location, often closer to learners' homes. Many grade 9 completers get placed in C4 schools. A lot of them do, particularly where boarding spaces like in C1 or C2 are limited. However, C4 schools still must offer a combination of pathways and subjects for the CBE senior school placement acceptance, which they do not. That's the problem at this point, that they don't. A bigger issue now is that we saw a very low enrollment in C4 schools this time round. We're looking, and I'm just looking at the numbers now, is that we saw enrollment numbers per individual C4 schools as low as 150. Out of the 399,000 students that would be allocated to C4 schools, there are some C4 schools in this country that had 156, 150, 71 students enrolled in those schools, offering the same thing that a national school, which should only have taken cumulatively 105,000 students, were enrolling much more than that. So C1 schools that should only take 100,000 students were enrolling much more than C4 schools, which should have taken 399,000. But we see the inverse happening. Shouldn't that have been something that we nip in the bud and say, wait, this cannot be happening? But what we did here is that the Ministry of Education said, okay, no problem. After January 12th, you can still come back and reapply to go to the school that you chose in the first place. So we are on the go mending things.
I think that is why I want to go back to the responsibility of the president in this set. Using the bottom-up approach, let him concentrate on equipping the C4 schools so that we shift the mind that my child must travel 12 hours from Nyanza and Western to come to Alliance. We need that alliance in the village. And that is where the president comes in, that if he's directing on areas of capitation through ministries, there should be higher capitation in those C4 schools. When a student, a student sees there is a good laboratory in the school, I can walk in and out, and we can copy the model of South Africa. If you go to South Africa, in many of their states, all the schools are day schools, but they are well equipped because there is a higher concentration on a school where the student walks in and out. And so there should be concentration of funding to improve on the C4. And using the model of what I've said, the bottom-up approach, we should concentrate less on the C1 schools in terms of development. Provide teachers in the C4 schools. Now, where does he also stand in? Leaving aside the Presidential Working Party, at the top as a president, we have a cabinet secretary. What does the cabinet secretary report? Then how does the cabinet secretary get his report? He has a principal secretary under. And then from the principal secretary, we have all these departments. We have quality assurance and standards officers at the sub-county level. What do they report? We have head teachers of schools. I will shock you. I visited a school which I don't want to mention, where even the water the teachers drink is taken from the pot. The pot is at the corner, and that's where they get it from. That is their fridge, the old pots. So what I'm trying to say is that we should overturn our level of investment in schools and start with the so-called the C4 schools. When that happens, we will stop this idea of what we call categorization of schools. Even if you are telling Alliance or we are telling Lenana that, look, admit more, do they have the space for that admission? That's the question.
Well, they'll tell you they do, because they used to have Form 1 and 2s. Now they only need grade 10.
No,
so they have space.
They don't. What they did, they admitted more. I've visited most of these schools. Those classes are not even there. They admitted more students when they had those spaces because there were more demands for students to gain those schools. And as we go on along this as well, there should be higher consultation with what private schools are doing. There should be a deliberate move to say, look, can we just engage private schools and have a conversation? Article 53 of the Constitution of this country is very clear. Free, compulsory, basic education, accessible, of quality and relevance. Are the members of parliament discussing that article? Are we doing it right?
I'd like to add to what Dr. Ari has said in terms of data. Like the C1 schools, now we are calling the national schools, actually cater to 3% of the learners in this country. Majority of the learners, 65%, actually go to sub-county schools. So if you're in the planning docket, for example, where should your efforts go? And considering most of the C1 schools have been here for a long time, so that means there has been a lot of investment there. So if you're looking at where the 65% are going, let's invest there. For us, if you're talking about equity and quality education, can we start equalizing this thing and ensure all the learners, regardless of your background, you get into the education system? And if you want to be a business person, if you want to go into career, if you want to do whatever, you've gained the necessary skills to be able to do that.
Are we able, Dr. Ari and Claudia, to finally say that as a country, we recognize that getting to Singapore or even better than that is our goal? And with that, we fix the education, because even Singapore itself fixed its education first for it to get where it is today, right? So as a country, is it a time that we had a national conversation on education and say, for us to change, we must fix education? And failure to do that, there's nowhere we are headed.
It's true. And that is why I have to say, as a country, we will even need to stop constructing roads, shift our mind to education. All these countries we are talking about, Singapore, today we have now another small country here, Estonia, that is even coming to help to fund some education in this country. Estonia has a population of about 9 million people. That is less than a population of Kitui County. But it is coming to sort us just because we missed our priorities. We have to stop everything else, sort education, then we will have a healthy country.
Okay.
Because people will even understand how to eat healthily because they are educated.
They're educated.
We will have agriculturalists. We'll have the best doctors. We'll have the best business people once you have sorted education.
And
then continue. We shall get to Singapore.
Right. Well,
we shall get to where these other countries
just get to
are.
Kenya.
In fact, now you've said it.
Yeah.
Actually, we need to Kenyanize our education so that other people can now come and say, what has Kenya done?
And we're now getting to the place where we say, what can we actually do about it? One of the things that we're hearing, of course, is to have these conversations that folks are aware that there's a problem here and that there needs to be something done about it. And I remember someone who said, well, when there's a problem and that you don't have a direct hand in how it can be done, you keep talking about it, because one or two things will happen. Number one, somebody will do something about it, or we keep talking about it until that happens. And so even as we do this morning, we're at a place where just yesterday, a member of parliament launched a program in the same sector that we are speaking about today. And I just want to go through some of those things. It's called the Kiharu Masomo Bora program. The program covers 12,000 learners in all 65 secondary schools in Kiharu. Now remember, this is secondary school, okay? That means even the grade 10s who are getting into this system, which is now a hybrid system between 844 and CBE, this is who it affects. So we can't say it's just primary schools. No, secondary schools as well. School fees for all day secondary school learners will be at 500 shillings per term, starting this first term of 2026. All learners will be served lunch at school on all days, including Saturdays, Githeri 3 days, and rice 3 days, Uji for tea break. Chapati will be served for lunch every last Friday of the month. An additional 10 million shillings for revision materials to be provided by Kiharu NGCDF this financial year, and 20 million shillings has been provided in the previous years. More than 50 million shillings will be provided for additional infrastructure. Now, infrastructure, of course, we're talking about things that we brought up: labs, classrooms, etc. More has been provided since the program started. All students joining grade 10 in the 20 identified schools with low enrollment and the new schools, those starting this year, will be provided with uniforms for free. All the 65 day schools will be provided with an extra 50,000 shillings to supplement the activity kitty, since capitation is not enough. For music festivals, games and co-curricular activities, 900,000 shillings is provided for prize-giving celebrations, 450,000 for each of the two sub-counties, Muranga East and Kahuro. This is to reward the best performers without parents having to pay for it. The best improved teacher per subject in each of the sub-counties is to get a paid-up trip to Mombasa. This will include the previous year, since some were participating in marking of KCSE when they could have travelled. From the MP, since public resources don't have this provision. It goes on. Shall I continue? It's just until 15.
Yeah.
Principals from the best and best improved schools per ward will have a fully paid trip to Dubai. Of the 6 wards, 12 principals will travel. Those who have travelled to Dubai before may choose to travel to Malaysia. Schools with remedial arrangements capped at 1,000 shillings per term. No other payment or registration fees of any nature in all of these institutions. Premium and general services of buses owned by day secondary schools to be paid for by this program. That's insurance now we're talking about, since they are common utilities accessible to and by any public institution. And finally, the program covers all learners, including Kenyans from other parts of the country, as long as they are in any of our day secondary schools. This is Kenya.
Wow.
Dr. Odundo?
I think while we were seated out here, I was telling her that I'll make a trip to Kiharu to just have a conversation with the member of parliament to understand this well.
And mind you, he's not an educationist, he's a businessman.
He's a businessman.
Yes.
And I think what he has done, he has analyzed exactly what amount of money that NCGDF receives against possibly what he could add on with some of his partners and sponsors or something like that. That's what I think. And you see, with that kind of work that he's doing, what does it mean? It means that we can do it as a country, and we do not have to think about what another country is doing, because we can already see what he's doing in Kiharu as a member of parliament. And then at the same time, again, it also comes back to us, the electorate. Who do we elect? Who do we elect? Because if you elect the right person, then the right deliverables will be there, looking at issues of honesty and integrity. I'm yet to understand when he was campaigning whether he used any tokenism theory, the way other members of parliament do it. Because if you use the tokenism theory, when you get there, what happens to you? You want to bring back the money that you gave to the electorate. And so it all boils down to the responsibility not just of the leader, but the responsibility of the community as well. What he's also doing, he's actually trying to bring on board the aspect of improving day schools.
Yes.
And everyone will be competing for that. One of the things I've always said, should anyone make a mistake or a good mistake to make me a cabinet secretary, one of the things I will work hard to do is to have more day schools than boarding schools in this country.
Why?
You realize that the accessibility, the aspect of accessibility, most learners can access day schools as long as we improve the quality of education. India has the largest population in terms of learners, and it has the least number of boarding schools, because with them they work on the verge of every 2 kilometers there must be a school that offers quality. And that's the same way we need to go. So I think what the Member of Parliament Itskari is trying to do, Ndindi Nyoro is trying to do, is at the same time when you'll find yourself feeling like, why can't I go and live in around that area for my child to go into a quality day school? And you'll find the growth that you had talked about where it had dropped because there are possibly no facilities, no good teachers. Now you'll find that most students or most parents are preferring to get to those schools. Look at how he wants to motivate the heads of schools, the teachers, and all that. He has taken a whole kind of, what do we call it, a holistic approach in terms of ensuring that every sector is taken care of.
And clearly that speaks to the fact that if we have good political will, it can be done.
It can be done.
That Kenya does not lack individuals who can run the education sector well. That where there is will, there is a way. You know, all we need to do is just put our boots down and look at how we are approaching the problems that we have and offer solutions. Because for a very long time, it has been said that what Kenyans do is open the book of lamentations and lament every other day it is not working, the education sector. Ndindi Nyoro said, fine, there is a problem, but I will deal with it. I will look at what is in my disposal, look at other partners, and put it into education. There is conversation that is going around where kila mtu asome kwao. You know, Ndindi Nyoro is saying, watu wangu watasoma kwangu. Perhaps it's about time that leaders realize they need to invest in this single thing that is an equalizer that will put Kenya forward. That we do not need to go to Singapore to benchmark. Perhaps just go to, it is now being called Sinkiharu, to just learn what is being done and replicate the same in our different constituencies for Kenya to win, you'd say?
Thank you, Aseto. And that answers the question. It's not about resources. It's utilization. It's who you have in power. It's the proper utilization of resources and actually being passionate about education, which is supposed to be an equalizer. What we need in this country is to be able to amplify the good practices. For example, if Ndindi Nyoro is doing it well, how can we learn from that? So that now, how can that be replicated to other counties? So that now we are showcasing how it's supposed to be done. Yeah, because of benchmarking, right? That means it's just showing us a glimpse of something that, you know what, there's hope in this nation in transforming our education system. And that we have a responsibility as an electorate. As we are gearing towards the election next year, how are the manifestos of the aspirants looking like? Do they have education as an agenda? The current leaders in different positions, will we gauge them based on how they delivered on education? Because we are pushing for having education as a political issue. So that now we are gauging, you said you will do this in education. If there's no transformation in education, therefore there's no need for a second term. And those who are seeking for new positions, education has to be at the center of the agenda. And let's have this conversation in all the 47 counties. Imagine if the counties are able to transform that how will our education system look like? So there's hope for Kenya. It's not all lost.
And just to add on that is because this Ndindi Nyoro must have become very intentional.
Yes.
He must have become very intentional on what he wants to do and once he wants to deliver for his people. The conversation about kila mtu asome kwao, I honestly really agree with it, that my son doesn't have to look for an education in Mombasa if there is a quality school next door. I will save on the costs of travel and all that. After all, when they reach university, they'll mix all over. But we just have to focus to look at the quality of education in the sub-county schools. So that when that is improved, we'll even improve the cost of living for a parent. Because look at this parent who has spent all that money traveling from all the way from Western to Nairobi. There'll be a half term. There'll be end of term. Visiting. All that is money. Can that money be transformed into an economic value for this parent and for this family? This parent could be having more other children in schools. Why not just improve and ensure that I have the best Lenana school in my constituency where I come from? And it is possible. Once that is done, then we'll be saying, look, I think Kenya, you can even be comfortable to come and live in Western because there is a quality school. But I'm sure if I asked you, would you be transferred and work for KTN from you? The first question you will ask me, why will my kids go to school? Where will be the best quality school?
Right.
What resources are available for me to? But now you'll want to be narrow because you're seeing this. So that is the way we need to look at. We need to look at where KFC, for example, started and where it is today. KFC.
I think you need to clarify.
In a slum.
You need to clarify what KFC is in this regard.
Oh,
Dr. Odundo.
Oh, all right. The Kentucky Fried Chicken. And everyone goes there. The founder of KFC started it as in a slum. And he was basically roasting chicken on the street. And people liked it. And he said, now I will open a smoke kiosk. And people visited the smoke kiosk, took it, and started looking like, oh, so this is the best chicken ever. Now today, KFC moved from slum to the affluent zones because of the quality of chicken that this guy did. No one else can do the chicken that is done at KFC. That is for real. Even the workers who work there, when they leave, they say they are unable because they do not have the quality products that will produce what KFC produces. That's the same level. From a slum to this, our education needs to start from the sub-county. The bottom-up approach needs to start from the sub-county. We need to start reducing this aspect of C4 schools and have all the schools categorized to be the same so long as they can provide quality, access, and relevance.
We'll take a snapshot of what people are saying in terms of what needs to happen in the system. Claudia mentioned the stakeholder, which is the parent that we often kind of forget in all of this. Primary stakeholder in this being the learner, and additional peripheral stakeholders being the parents, being the educators, being the teachers, being the institutions in this entire ecosystem. We want to hear from you this morning as well as we continue this conversation. What do you think needs to happen for this system to work better? Call in live on 0732-142-650, 0732-142-651. We'd like to hear from you this morning as well. Remember, we talked about a collective approach to solving these problems. We can complain, which is well within our right to do, but at the same time, we must be in a place where we are then able to offer ideas and suggestions towards how this can be done better. There is no one person who's going to be able to sort it out. If that was the case, it would have been done by now. So we're still hearing from you. We're also going to take, a sample of the comments that we're seeing online, as well as on our live streams this morning, but to then be able to hear what it is that needs to be done. So Claudia, it's very clear that the solutions to this can be found right here. You don't have to benchmark. You don't have to go anywhere else. You can actually see it being done. And that a holistic approach can be taken towards this thing. You can make sure your children are getting a quality education. You can go by constitutional standpoints and say, this is what we must follow. You can then incentivize teachers and say, you know what, not just for you to look good, but for you to ensure that what is supposed to be done in this system is actually being achieved. And we can reward you for that. It can be done. We'll see it. We can see it being done. So it's not for lack of resources like we started off in this conversation, but it's lack of goodwill across board. Would you agree?
Yeah, totally agree. And the way you talked about a stakeholder that has been left out, right? The parent. You remember this stakeholder plays a critical role in the competence-based education. Learning does not end at school. Learning continues at home. For example, the assessments that are being done, like projects, portfolios that they're supposed to build on. The child is sent home and told, go cook eggs and take a photo and bring to school.
Right.
Who is helping the child in terms of learning at home? Because this is all about gaining skills. So the parent is supposed to do that. The parent is supposed to work collaboratively with the teacher to ensure, to be able to know where are the areas where my child is struggling. How can we support the child better? If you talk to any parent in the village or even in towns right now, most of them are still grappling with CBE. They do not understand exactly what CBE is all about. And the other aspect is, these are the same parents who are supposed to collaborate with the teacher in helping the children choose the pathways.
Right.
Yeah, being able to say, this, my child is going to STEM, arts and sports, or social sciences. How were they able to do that conclusively, having limited knowledge in it? So what I'm saying is, this stakeholder should be considered at every level of reforms. At the beginning of something in the education space, let them be consulted. Let them understand before you even roll it out. During the process, as you're doing even formative assessments for children when they're learning, to see where they are. Do we evaluate where the parents are in terms of understanding the system? Because that plays a big role. So the parents have a positive perspective towards the system, because we've heard some of them saying it's expensive. It's taking so much time on us. And an example that was given during a conversation recently is a student was given an assignment, go make a purse, a purse, kibeti, logo. You can put your coins or pencil pouch. Do you know what the parents did? They went to a cobbler. And the cobbler actually made the purse and gave the child to take to school.
Yep.
So what does that mean? That means there's a disconnect somewhere. The parent is supposed to be a collaborator, co-educator at home. So we need to fix that so that now they're able to support the children at home. Then it's a holistic approach. We are targeting the teacher, the pupils, the infrastructure, and other things that are required to have equitable and quality education.
We'll hear from some of you this morning. 0732 142 650 or 0732 142 651. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. All right, we're taking... Hello, good morning. All right, we'll take some more calls this morning. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Hello, how are you? Tell us your name and where you're calling in from, please.
I'm calling from the Drive for Science.
Okay, so what are your thoughts? Yes, we can hear you. What are your thoughts around CBE and how it can be improved, overhauled in the country?
My thought is, what about if we transform the education to be transformed we transform the education from national to the rural, like transform.
Okay, I think we can't hear you very well. Let's see if we can get you back on call to then get a clearer call. Let's try and do that. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Hello, good morning. How are you? Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Yes,
How
morning.
are you? Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
I'm Ivan.
Yes, Evans. What are your thoughts around the CBE and how we can improve it?
CBE can be improved because we are not aware of the parents are not aware of the CBE, and we need to improve much on it.
When you say parents are not aware, what do you mean? They're sending their children to school. They're not aware. Okay, I think we've lost that call. Let's see if we can get some more of those calls in this morning. Just for a reminder, the number is 0732 142 650 or 0732 142 651. We'll keep taking your calls. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Please turn down the volume on your radio.
Yes, hello, how are you?
Very fine. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
I'm calling from Wasingishu.
Kindly turn down the volume on your radio.
Yes, I've done that.
Okay. Please let us know what your thoughts are on how the CBE can actually be improved.
I think we need to prepare the teachers and avail all those requirements that are needed for this curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think those are the most important things.
All right. Thank you for that. Actually, this morning, let's hear from a few more folks who are calling in. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello,
Please tell us your name and where you're calling in from.
I'm Gideon from Joska, Machakos.
Yes, Gideon, what are your thoughts around CBE and how it can be improved?
Mostly what I think about it is that if they want to improve it, mostly they should go back to their discourse. And first, by doing that, actually they should follow the MP for Kiharu, how he did it. Actually, he did it in the best way.
Okay.
Yesterday, I was watching this show in KTN called The Class, and I saw a lot of things being talked about the CBC, how it is being made, but where we are going and how it is being implemented, it's not in the right way. So I guess the government should go back to the books and check where things are going wrong first and later on improve it. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your thoughts. That definitely is one to go by. We'll take a few more calls as we go on. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Hello, good morning. Please tell us your name and where you're calling in from.
Good morning. My name is Edwin Dege, the County Parents Association Chairman of Kisumu County.
Yes.
What I want to say that CBE is a very, very, very good system of education. The only problem we have are challenges. One of them being the way it was being implemented. I think it was hurriedly done. Teachers were not properly prepared. And even the parents were not properly prepared about it. So what I want to suggest, the government should work very, very, very hard to standardize all the schools so that this taste of parents wanting, like, my child has to go to Alliance, my child has to go to Maseno, my child has to go to these big, big schools. The government needs to put infrastructure in all the schools, even at the very, 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 very corner of those rural areas, so that all the schools are the same, so that I don't have to take my child all the way from Kisumu to Nakuru or to Nairobi to Alliance or anywhere. The school next door to me should be able to have all the facilities, the laboratories, everything that is required for learning.
Okay.
And then even the textbook, like when I was learning Mapema, it was so popular that we knew even before we walked into school that the textbook was Mr. Kamau, Tom, and Mary. Everybody knew about it.
Yeah.
Then you move to the next level, it was Safari Book 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then you move to school, we knew about physics, Mr. Abbott, and all that. So why don't the government just come up with the issue of textbooks and they do it once and for all? Instead of like this year you find it is PJ Longman, the another year they are changing again. They keep on changing and changing and changing and changing.
Thank you.
Such that even the teachers, once they have been trained on this, they have to be retaken again for another refresher courses. So the only solution to do, let us standardize all our schools, such that all schools are the same. This crazy thing of parents wanting specific schools is not there. All schools are the same, teachers have got the same training, and then the learning is just okay.
Thank you very much for your thoughts this morning. Indeed, thank you for calling out, and hopefully this is a message that's getting to parents as well. Asante Sana, let's take some more calls this morning. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Please tell us your name and where you're calling in from.
This is Harrison from Zero.
Yes, Harrison, please tell us your thoughts around the education system.
The education system, this system is very nice. But the problem is that we have not equipped the schools, we have not equipped the teachers, the parents are unaware what is going on. You are told you go and buy these things you are being told to buy, even you don't know where they are. So the biggest problem here is the government or the people who are dealing with the education system.
Okay.
They should come on board, sit down with parents, sit down with teachers, and provide the material for this system. The system is very nice. It is keeping our children very busy. But now, the schools are not equipped. I've seen one school, it doesn't even have a computer. It doesn't have the class doesn't have any windows. How can children sit in such classes and say that they are doing things to do with chemicals, things, they don't have any water. So the important thing is that the government should come up and build schools. Government should come up and equip the teachers with the necessary materials for the learning. Right now they are moving around giving food to people, and they are not giving books. They are not giving books to the schools. So, and you meet your people also. You need also to call even the students, some of the students from these rural areas, to come and speak about what they are learning in the schools.
That's a good idea.
Because the biggest problem is that.
Thank you very much for your thoughts this morning, for calling in, and we'll keep those calls coming in even as you do. We're going to get a few more comments coming in from the studio here, because it's necessary for us to then be able to do kind of an audit on that. You can hear what people are saying and involve parents, hear what the students are actually learning beyond those learning outcomes. Do some now there are C4 schools. We want to run away from categorization, but we've already recategorized them. The C4 schools, people are already talking about that. Do we have laboratories? Do we have the equipment that's necessary? You can hear what the people are saying. Dr. Odundo?
I think what the people are saying is very, very true and important. But at the level of parental involvement and engagement, I would say that our school heads are not doing it right. There is a good policy guideline from KICD on parental engagement. Mm-hmm. And what you realize with most of the schools, and private schools are doing it very well, but our public schools are basically not engaging parents. Basically, it could be sometimes possibly even most of those head teachers and teachers themselves do not understand this CBE. So when they call parents, possibly they even do not understand what to tell them. And so that's why they try to keep them off. Another reason could be the aspect of you call parents and you want to talk about pre-tech, but you don't have a single resource that would even be talking about in terms of that specific area.
Right.
Another aspect of why parents also need to be engaged. But of course, media, what you're doing is great. I think you need to enhance up to Swahili and all languages and ensure that parents can also listen from the media on what you're doing. But at school level, I think the heads of schools need to be very intentional. Like now we have the grade 10 who have gone to to high school.
Senior secondary.
Secondary. I'm really interested to know the plans the principals have in terms of engagement of these parents. While they have already, students have come in, we need to hear how do they intend to engage them and have a structure of engagement. And of course, sometimes engagement just goes beyond parents coming and being lectured and being told. If we talk about you want to engage parents and you want to discuss about some of the things that the students do, and you have activities in agriculture, let the parents just come, stay the entire day in school observing what the learners are doing. That to me is even a better engagement than lecturing them. So that you have a short period to tell them, look here parents, for learners to do this is how we need to support them.
Okay.
But if we just say, you come, we have a meeting, we tell you what we are doing, no. Let them come and see exactly. Let the parents feel free to come to school and even visit classrooms and see what is my student doing in the class. When we talk about our portfolio, do even our parents know what this portfolio is? Do they even understand what it means? When we talk about what Lagat just referred to, a parent going to a cobbler, and it's happening. And then the teacher goes ahead and gives that child exceeding expectations. That's already falsehood.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's a lot of falsehood. So the child knows that I've been given wrong marks, they are not mine. And then the child is transited because of the 100% transition. But in terms of skills and capabilities, the child doesn't have that. So I think the best thing when we're engaging parents, we might need to change from the theoretical engagement to a more practical engagement. There is an aspect I need to mention, the community service learning. Schools are not doing well on that. Because another way to engage parents is for students to actively participate in the community service learning. And when you're doing a community service project, parents can also be involved. You say, we have a grade 9 project and it's community service. We want parents to come and participate together with the learners. That is how best you understand how the curriculum works. Other than being told, we have community service, this is what we do, then you go and say, we've had this community. They forget. Let them come and be part of the community service. Let the parents feel the students participating a lot of community service activities. Assignments that we give as teachers at schools. Can't we give tasks that lead students into real life experience? For example, students who want to do media. I don't know whether you guys have already received an application from a parent saying, I would like my student just to come to Media House, stay with you guys for a full day and see what happens. This one who wants to become a lawyer, let him go to the law firm and just see how the lawyer, he's told, look, we have these files to be summarized and we need this case in court next week. So that the student knows that I must read very hard. And when I come here, there is a lot of reading. So practical approach, the assignments should be able to send students into real life experience as opposed to just pen and paper every time. Yeah.
Claudia, we're going to come to you in just a minute. We're going to take a few calls because it seems to be coming in quite some to hear what people's thoughts are around this. It's important for us to do. 0732 142 650 0732 142 651. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. This is Musa. I'm calling from Kisumu.
Yes, Musa calling from Kisumu. Good morning. Thank you. What are your thoughts around the CBE education system? How can it be improved?
It's nice. It's a good one. Apart from the observation that have been from how we can improve, right? I think work on how we made cost effective. What I mean is, you find days we used like they do have now, but I think can support our.
Sorry, Musa, your line is not very clear. I'm going to suggest that maybe you can hang up and try to call us back so that we can hear you very clearly, if you don't mind. Let's take a couple other calls in that. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Please tell us your name and where you're calling in from.
I'm Mohammed.
Yes, Mohammed.
Okay. Naongea kutoka Mombasani.
Yes, please go ahead.
Huu mfumo si mbaya, lakini shida ni kwamba vile umeletwa haraka sana. Vitabu kupatikana ni shida. Haya, kila yani kwenye uko juu Sasa uelewi pia kabisa, mzazi unakorogeka kabisa. Kama mimi niko na mtoto wangu sasa anaenda grade 9. Vitabu viko juu, school fees ndio hizo, makazi hakuna, yani kila kitu kimekuwa mkorogo kabisa. Ingekuwa imeletwa mpangilio vizuri mapema, yani alafu walimu wenyewe wawe wamekuwa train. Kama saa hii unakuta mtoto akija kutoka shule amepewa homework, unaomba msaidie, hujui, ukimwambia hivi anakuambia tufundishwe hivi. Sasa unashindwa, kwani huko mwalimu anafundisha vipi na sisi tunafundisha vipi huko?
Kweli.
Masomo mengine ni hayo. Masomo mengine ndio hayo, mwalimu anasema walimu wenyewe hawajui, yani hawajui, anasema sisi hatuelewi hii syllabus. Kwa hivyo tunapita, tunaenda mbele. Sasa imekuwa mkorogo.
Tumesikia. Asante sana, Musa. I mean, just hearing some thoughts from folks who call in this morning. We'll take one more call and then we come back to you, Claudia, in just a bit. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. One more. Hello, good morning.
Morning to you.
Please tell us your name.
I'm calling from Voi. My name is Pascal Mkaya Katambo from Voi.
Yes, Pascal.
Actually, the problem with our CBE is standardization of schools.
Yes.
If schools should be standardized to be on the same standard all over the country, and the distribution of teachers should be actually the same to each school. If teachers are required to be 20, then each school should get 20 teachers. I think that is my point.
Thank you very much for that. Also hearing from some others in just a minute. We'll take that one last call before we come to you, Claudia, because we're also hearing some things about teachers as well. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Please tell us your name and where you're calling in from.
I'm calling from Odongo here at Nairobi.
Oh, please turn down the volume on your radio, Boniface.
Thank you. Now I have reduced the volume of the radio.
Okay, please tell us what your thoughts are around CBE system. How can it be improved?
I think the best way out we should have a cooperation between teachers and parents, whereby we as parents, we should be revisiting schools every time and then to know how our students are going well with their education. And then we have to understand the way out. How are they being taught? So as parents, when they come home with some homeworks, we can help them easily. Apart from that one, also we should improve, the government should improve on in infrastructure. We can find out that some of the schools that our students are going to join grade 10, they look as old as if they were just built during colonialism. They don't have enough in infrastructure. They don't have computers. They don't have best labs. Whether you found out that when these students are going to these schools, how are they going to cope up? How are they going to learn? And when we can now have to look about this, look someone who is studying somewhere like Old Kibra and someone who is studying at Stare Boys, we cannot end up too much at one way or the other, because the studying and the environment, it isn't conducive and allowing us to do that.
Definitely hear your thoughts on that.
I think the best way out, we have to improve about that one, so that the government can work much better on this in this particular for CPE, and also teachers, they should go for training for this, because I don't think the studies that these students are getting, it is like a vocational, whereby it needs someone like a lecturer, someone who is well trained to teach these studies. So our teachers, they should go back to studies and get enough knowledge concerning about this. That's just enough that I have with this.
Thank you very much for your comments this morning. And of course, then hearing those thoughts, Claudia, this is what people are saying. There's got to be an improvement across board. And this is the thing that people say, yes, the system, if it was working, would be fantastic, because then we're able to see a couple of things. The gentleman from Mombasa struck me because he says, you know what, we're being brought these things to do at home. It's as though the parents are supposed to do the homework, and then so there seems to also be a lack of understanding across board in terms of what is supposed to be carried out. So it's a good system, number one, but can we do it this way? Can we improve it? Isn't this fodder for, the education vanguards to then pick up and say, okay, guys, let's restructure it a little bit?
Yeah, thank you, Hundo, for that. It's evident that we have embraced the system as a nation. We're not saying the system is bad, but the difficult thing is the implementation that needs to be fixed. So the good book says you've heard once, you've heard twice, you've heard. So there's now time for action, because the problems have been highlighted. Data and evidence shows there's a problem. The people on the ground actually are talking about the issues that are currently confronting right now. So let's just go back to the model of CBE, where we want to have competence-based infrastructure, competence-based teachers, competence-based assessment, right? And also empower the parents to be able to understand the entire system. And for every decision that is made, let's have the stakeholders empowered. Because when you're making a change, for example, from CBC to CBE, were the stakeholders engaged to understand where are we shifting from CBC to CBE? So at every stage of evolution of any education system, let there be conversations. Let there be national conversations at the international level, at the county level, at the lower level in the villages. Let the people who've been tasked with responsibility in the villages, who are the gatekeepers, be able to talk about these things in order to bring about a change. And for teachers, we have a window. What is happening in the universities? What is happening in the teacher training colleges? Let's start fixing that, as I had already mentioned. Mwalimu is a lecturer at the university. Let's start aligning it to CBC. When you're doing in-service trainings, in-service, they go a few days, they come back. Yeah. How much can you cover in 4 days? To understand the curriculum. So there's need to be a lot of investment at the school level. Yeah. Can the curriculum support officers in the counties visit the schools, hoping they understand the curriculum, and support the teachers? When they walk to school, the teachers should not be running away from them, because it's like a punishment. It's like they're being monitored. But let the posture of the curriculum support officers be support. How can I help you? Sit in class and see what are the areas that you're struggling in. What areas do you need support? And then tailor a proper support system for equipping them with skills. And then can we have, because there are teachers who have grasped the concepts, there are some who are still struggling, as students as well. Can we have peer learning peer learning amongst the teachers? I can come to your class today and sit and correct classroom observations. Can you have community of practice, teachers in a particular area? Just sit and have conversation, highlight their challenges, and let's have the support of the head of institutions, because a school is as good as the head of institution. Right. So the head of institutions as well need to be empowered, because the head of the institution is not only a teacher, they're heading the school. They have to have management skills, they have to have leadership skills, and demonstrate expertise in what is being rolled out. So yeah.
So, Dr. Odundo, we talked about the university level, and maybe we'll have a chance for a couple more calls, guys, so just hang tight. But we talk about the university level. In another 3 years, so we're counting 2026, 2027, and the year after that is when we are going to see the complete CBE product in terms of learners now get into university, right? What would the universities be expecting of this student who is now coming in? They've done exploratory years, they've selected a pathway, and university essentially will come and give a rubber stamp to that pathway that they've then selected for a higher level of critical thinking and skill. Okay. What is expected vis-a-vis what we are seeing now? Is there time to clean it up?
Yeah, before I get to that, let me give some clarity about these two terms, CBC and CBE. There has been a little confusion for people to think that we have changed, there is a change from a curriculum to another one called CBE. No. CBC is the curriculum structure. Competency-based curriculum is the curriculum structure. So we use the curriculum to implement the philosophy. The philosophy is CBE. For all the time we started, we were doing CBE. We were not doing CBC, but we were using CBC, a curriculum to implement CBE. So there has been no change. I wanted to make that clarity for the public to know that there is no new curriculum called CBE. It is the philosophy which includes the mode of delivery, the how, the assessment strategy, and all that. Now, coming back to preparedness of higher learning institutions. First, Riara University, we have a program we call Certificate in Teaching International Curricula. It introduces teachers or educators to all forms of international curricula, but the most important thing in it is pedagogy, methodology, how to teach, the modern teaching and learning pedagogy. We have even gone further and increased it into what we call the digital pedagogy. When we are doing this program, we discover a serious gap in the teachers that are released, even up to including today. As we talk about, you hear there is so much CBE taking place. We still have, we at universities, I can say most universities could be at now 50-50, because many times when I talk to some of my colleagues in universities, they say, we are waiting for those students. Actually, universities should have been preparing students for competencies from a long time. Because students, when they graduate, they go into the market, and they need to get into the market with a proficiency. So whether it was 844 or which system, students need to come out with a proficiency. The reason why you guys are seated here, the reason why Claudia is at Usawa is because of the proficiency. And you guys did not go through the competency-based education. You did not use that curriculum. But what universities are supposed to do is to produce a ready market graduate who can apply skills and competencies. So what I can say, we have been there. And so there should be no worry about that. There has been a challenge in teacher training colleges. Good enough now. Teacher training colleges have really improved. Those are some of the gains at higher learning, because they are able to take a course for CBE online. They are also able to sit for exams. In teacher training colleges, you can now sit for exams online. The problem comes in when they go back into the field and there is no continuous professional development. The Teacher Service Commission had started what we call teacher professional development. Riara University, we were one of the universities doing it. But why did it go to a stop after we did Module 1? It is because there was no political goodwill. The current government promises was going to pay for teachers for that program. Do you know how much it was costing? Only 6,000 shillings per year. And it was to put a teacher on continuous professional development throughout life, which should be the best practice. But here, once you go to college, get us that TSC number, you live for 20 years without attending a single professional development course. And if a teacher goes back to school, he's going in for upgrading for the purpose of promotion, not because he wants to improve the skills. What is my recommendation here? Part of the funding that must come out is to fund TPD, so that teachers have continuous professional development. They have to keep upscaling themselves. Today we are talking about CBE with course competencies to be 7. Let me assure you, 2030, we are going to move from generative AI to general AI, where there are certain skills educators must now attain, such that as you think about generative AI, now we go to general AI and quantum computing, where you speak to a gadget and it gives you a response in the manner you want to receive it. And that is going to happen. But teachers are not already even skilled. They are not even getting skilled on how to use AI in improvement of learning. Like now we have no textbooks. But I will tell you, teachers for senior school, teachers who can use AI effectively can still create activities, can still generate notes for the students, assessments using generative AI, as long as they have the curriculum design. But because they don't have those skills, that possibility is not there. So my conclusion is to say, Universities, yes, there is quite a bit of preparedness because we have been preparing students for the market,
right.
But there must be an improvement. Why there must be an improvement is that universities must now improve on internship, meaning we should have what we call a hands-on skill of training. If a student is training in media, why do a course at the university stuck at the university only come to do an internship here for 3 months? We are saying no. Now, if again universities, we are looking at teachers, why should they have just a teaching practice once? Of course, now they have recommended for 2 practicums. But me, I'm feeling like we should have 1 year or some months or a semester. A teacher is practicing, is at the university. The next semester, the teacher has to blend between 2 weeks in the coursework at the university, in the class, and then some 2 weeks to real practice or even a month in the school.
That's what actually prepares them for this job market.
Yes.
So this is what we're saying, that at the very beginning, that when you have children in primary school who've left, who now the recommendation is from the time they're 7 years old, that the outcome that we're looking for, preparing them for the job market, those skills should actually become should start coming out at that age, at that 7. So we don't have to actually wait until this grade 9.
Yes.
But our economies, governments actually thinking in that symbiotic manner where we're saying this education ministry, this system, are we saying that everything that we're inputting is for us to get a result at the end of the day that will then be in this cyclical ecosystem whereby we're saying what you do for an economy starts from what you put into education from the time this child is 6, 7 years old. Claudia?
Yeah, and I agree with that statement because you're looking at systems change. You cannot start fixing, kunje ikiwa bado ishakauka, usikunje like the branch kishakauka, unakunja ikiwa mbichi, right? That means you start dealing with issues at a tender stage. And that's why I was saying at the beginning is when you're looking at the entire ecosystem of CBE, begin fixing. You're fixing the teachers, right? There's a strategy for teachers. So for learning, actually, begin fixing the lower levels, the early years, right? Begin investing in teachers' infrastructure at the early years. And that's why we are seeing a problem. They're transiting at different levels without attaining the necessary competencies. So let's invest at the early years of education. They finish the circle, they reach grade 3. Let's invest in primary, let's invest in junior school, let's invest in senior school. Then the entire system will be set up on a good direction.
Yeah. Indeed. We've had an extensive conversation for the last couple of hours into the education system. It's very clear that, we talk about it all the time and we say, if you want to be developed, do what the developed did. You can't run away from it. An example is good as how you practice it, that we can look towards those skill areas and say this is what we must do and not run away from that responsibility. We want to thank you both for being here in the room this morning. There's a lot to be done and we can make those suggestions towards it, and that we don't be shy about having these conversations. We continue, the Dean of Education at the Riara University, Dr. Julius Odundo, and Claudia Lagat, Assistant Program Officer, Policy Engagement at the Usawa Agenda. Both of you, thank you very much for contributing to this conversation. It is our hope that these conversations don't stop, that we continue having them until change is actually realized. Thank you for all of you who contributed to our conversations this morning. We apologize if we didn't take some calls. It seemed to get too many at some point, but that you're contributing to this conversation is necessary that we do, and there will be another one, that's for sure, and looking to move that needle. Dennis and Ndu saying thank you for being in the Situation Room with us this morning, and we'll continue more. Enjoy the rest of your listening. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.